to everybody joining in. We just signed on, so we're gonna give it a couple minutes so that people who are planning on joining us today can go ahead and do that. For the moment, I'll introduce myself. My name is Tiffany McPherson, and I am the Director of Communications with Match a Resident. And today we're going to be talking with Dr. Charles Clinton, who is an IMG that is participating in this match cycle, and he's going to talk with us about some of his interview experiences. So we are looking forward to that. I know everybody is, really in the throes of the interview season and lots of questions, and I know that everybody's going to benefit from hearing about Dr. Clinton's experiences. So give me just a moment here, and I'm going to invite Dr. Clinton. At the end of our session, we will come back and answer any questions you have. So type your questions into the comment box as we're going. And like I said, we'll come back. We'll get to as many questions as we can. And with all of that being said, welcome, Dr. Charles Clinton.
Good morning, Tiffany. How are you doing today?
Really good. How about you?
Fine, thank you. Well, great to hear you're doing well, and hello to everyone. So I didn't want to interrupt you. You were in the middle of your sentence.
Oh, that's okay. I was actually just explaining that at the end, you and I will go through any questions that people have, so they can drop them in the comments as we're going through talking about the interview season and things like that. So yeah, actually, thank you. It's really nice to meet you in person. We communicate a lot just, typing. So It's nice to finally see you face to face.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, and the pleasure is mine.
Of course. So we'll go ahead and get started, if you don't mind, by asking you to tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your background.
Okay, so, well, I am a US IMG. I was born and raised in Costa Rica, and I went on to study medicine here in Costa Rica. I didn't know about the US healthcare system until I actually graduated, because during my medical school preparation, we didn't have much of tutoring or much information of what we could do after we graduated. So I learned about the US healthcare system once I graduated. So from then on, I started my journey into working on what has been my dream ever since, which it has been like 8 years in the making now, because I had some difficulties with the economic hardship that many of us IMGs are faced with. So I've had to work through that and be able to be here approximately eight years after. So it's been a lot of planning and working hard to get here. So that's kind of a summary of what I'm working on and yeah, my background.
Okay. So you said 8 years was from the time you graduated all the way through now, actually applying for the US match. That's definitely a long journey. I think, lots of other IMGs have long journeys too, but that is definitely longer than most probably. So do you want to tell us maybe just a little bit more about like what you did during those 8 years and how it feels to now finally be right here, right where you wanted to be?
Of course. So yeah, actually, I've always worked very hard in medicine. I don't like any gaps in my CV. So when you listen to 8 years between medical school graduation and application to the US, it sounds like a very large gap, and many programs might think that those gaps might be yeah, a red flag. But ever since I'm in medical school, I've taken all the blocks I can. After medical school, I knew that it would take some time for me to get to the States. So I had two options. One was, I'm also a US citizen, so one option was go to the States, work in something that was not that healthcare driven or related. I probably would earn much more money than I earn here in Costa Rica, but I knew that it wouldn't be seen that well, or it wouldn't be seen that positively in my CV. But even more than that, I wouldn't be growing academically or professionally as I actually envisioned. So I stayed here in my home country and have been working in all the healthcare related scenarios you can imagine. I'm only missing one, which is riding on the ambulance and going to see patients on the streets and everything. Actually, it's one of those jobs I am fond of also yeah, practicing before heading to the States. But from graduation to this point, it's been like 15. Actually, I have two new job experiences, so 17 job experiences till this point to this point. And yeah, I've worked in the private sector, the public sector, all areas of life, and I always have my goal in the yeah, it's my goal is the States, and yeah. So if you wish to speak about any specific experience, I would be glad to, but there's a lot.
A lot in those 8 years, right? I think that's really encouraging, for people who are tuning in who either know that they're going to have a long time since graduation or have some significant experience or time since graduation, but they filled it with those clinical experiences because that, as it turns out, is something that's worked well for you because as now we're into interview season, you're receiving interview offers, correct?
Yeah, that is correct. So I will try to, what you're seeing right now is kind of my setup for the interviews, and I'm gonna try to make it a little more similar right before we continue, right? So you can see like the setup how it actually is. It's kind of
Awesome.
something like this. Of course, I'm using my cell phone right now, so you cannot see it exactly how I have it, but this is basically my setup. We can talk about that in a while. So your question was, sorry, I just was lost in translation right there.
No, that's okay. That's actually kind of where I wanted to get started, actually, was asking you to share a little bit about your interview experiences and everything from, the setup that you have that you're graciously showing us now and how you prepare from your answers all the way to like, what do you do in the 15, 20 minutes before the interview? And then even just some reflections on the good moments, bad moments, maybe anything that happened that was unexpected and tips that you can share. So I really just want to turn it over to you and let you tell everybody about your interviews from A to Z.
Perfect. So thank you very much. Please don't hesitate in stopping me if I'm talking too much. Just let me know.
Sure.
So throw in the towel just in case. So, so yeah, for everyone watching, many of you are IMGs, so many of you know that getting those interviews is a little more difficult than a U.S. medical graduate. So this is where I want to stress out what Dr. Um, the neurologist on Instagram. Can you remind me his name right now?
Dr. Edwin, probably.
Yeah, Edwin.
Yes.
Edwin Serrano, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So let's remember what he said and what others have told us in the past. You only need one interview. So I want to stress this idea out, which means if you get an interview, it doesn't mean that you will match, but it means that you have one fighting chance. So that's all you need. You need that fighting chance in order to be victorious. So be able to appreciate the opportunity. So there's a saying that says, be able to take advantage of the opportunity during the lifetime of the opportunity. So that's what you guys have to do. If you have only one interview, I'd be glad for you guys because that means that you can excel on that interview and show them what you're made of and eventually match. So there are stories, there are success stories of people that have actually matched with only one interview. So that's all you need. It doesn't mean that having one will make you match. It means that if you use that one interview, that one fighting opportunity as if it was your only chance, you can make it. So that's the first point I want to stress out. That is how I am viewing all this match season. So far I'm in older medical graduate because I graduated 2013. I was active throughout. I have no gaps in my CV, but we have to understand that the system or the algorithms aren't perfect. So they don't take into account, okay, so you graduated 2013. What were you doing in all these years? Some programs won't take that into account, and some programs might actually just filter you out because they have a limit, 5 years or less, 3 years or less. So that's something important that everyone here should take advantage of the Match Your Resident site instead of going looking into every different, specifically wasting your time and searching all programs. You can find this with the program list Match Your Resident has, and you can know what is the time frame they will allow you, and you can actually try to play the odds, right? But have that in mind. If there's a program that says 5 years or less, and there's another program that has the exact same characteristics but says we are more flexible, 8 years or less, probably that's the program I will put more emphasis into, right? Instead of the first one. So you have to play the odds to your advantage, and yeah, it's not gonna be easy. You've already gone through all this process. If you have gotten to this point right here where you are applying, it means you already passed certain exams. At least you passed probably step 1. Most of us have passed step 1 and step 2, and some have even gotten under their belt step 3. So you have to be proud of yourselves. You have to believe in yourselves. Never forget how much you have endured to get here. And that is, when you understand that, you will appreciate yourself. You will respect yourself enough in order to make the best of every upcoming opportunity. So that being said, that is the way I approach every interview opportunity. And I've had 3 interviews. So I started planning ahead of time. I decided I won't have any fear at all. I am going head on and starting early. So actually, my first interview, I got the chance. I scheduled it the first date I could, and that's the only way we will actually grow and make the best out of it. So some people tell you the first interview is going to be your practice. So don't be too hard on yourself and take it easy in the first interview. Yeah, but some of you might only have one interview. So this isn't to stress you out. This is to make you acknowledge that you have to make your best, and anxiety won't take you anywhere. So yeah, that's basically the gist of it. So in my 3 interviews, I don't know if you have any like specific questions on the interviews.
Well, I think that a lot of our followers would love to know, were there any questions that you got asked that you were not expecting, just totally threw you off base, you were unprepared? What were those questions, and how did you give your answer, since you maybe hadn't thought of the question?
Okay. So in general, when I practiced, because I have practiced with the Match Your Resident preparation interview prep course. So I believe that there's a saying, I don't know who said this, but I have this in my mind ever since I was studying for step 1, which is the championship is won during the preseason. So you win the game before you actually go on the real game. So that being said, you win the championship through practice. You have to practice this whichever way you have at hand. If you have the money to invest in preparation, I would definitely recommend the Match Your Resident interview prep. You can use the videos, you can practice with questions. In my case, I practiced mainly with the random questions. That's the way I like to approach it. Why did I choose this? Because I like to be tested and thrown out into that cold water and that dark sky. You don't know where you're headed to, and you have to figure it out on the go. So that's why I preferred the random questions. Actually, some questions I didn't even like understand the wording because um, there were a couple questions that was like walk me through your um, experiences, but it wasn't exactly like tell me about yourself. It was like a mix between tell me about yourself and walk me through your job experiences. So
Okay.
those little changes might throw you off. So you have to prepare. So that's where you will be able to ace the questions on the interviews. So going to your question, actually, till to this date, in 3 interviews, I haven't received any question that any curveball, any difficult question. The toughest questions I've had have been during my practice with Match Your Resident. All the
Okay.
all the other questions have been very easy. Actually, I've been waiting for them to ask me difficult questions. So I've been waiting for them to ask me more situational questions or more behavioral questions, but not yet. I haven't experienced that so far, and I believe it's because I'm giving them many of what they're looking for before them asking me their other questions. So as I speak, I'm answering certain questions and yeah, making the necessity for them to ask difficult questions useless. So I believe much of that is being genuine and being authentic. Because if you're like a robot and if you are look like you're reading off a script, that's where they'll test you. That's where they'll ask you this question that will take you out of your script and make you start doubting yourself.
Yeah, I think I want to point out too that you did film a video that is up on Match Residence YouTube channel where you go through responses to, I think it's 13 different questions. And that's a great video like for anybody to watch because you've got Dr. Charles like this on camera. And your answers were really genuine and authentic, and the way that you delivered them, I thought after watching it, I was impressed because it felt like you were just having a conversation with the camera, essentially. And yeah, I think that that's a really, really smart tip is not to be too scripted, like know what you're going to say, know the key points, but be able to have a conversation with the people that you're talking to. And two, I really like that you said that you feel that you gave them so much when you were answering the questions that they gave you that it kind of probably answered other questions that they had in mind and took up that extra time that at the end, maybe if there's extra time, they're going to ask you those awkward questions, but
Mm-hmm.
you were able to fill it up with what you wanted them to hear. And that's really important too when thinking about your answers.
Exactly. So yeah, actually, this video you are mentioning, I practiced with the mature resident questions, and after I practiced a couple of times, I figured out that there's common ground for each question, for each answer. So everyone seeing this video will find out that after they start practicing, they have certain common ground things to say. So if we don't practice, if they ask you, tell me about your strengths, it's a tough question to answer because then you start thinking about it and you're like, what could I say? Is this relevant? Is it not relevant? Or if they ask you, what are your weaknesses? Then you'll start thinking about abstract things that may not even have anything to do with interviewing or that might actually don't look not look good in a 15-minute interview. So yeah, I want to stress out the practice. So these are my notes. For example, I have been taking notes of, for example, this paper right here is it says part two. This is for the Mature Resident videos. Why your specialty? So I take notes. So this is custom made for me. So based on what Pamela Skillens says in the videos, I take that into account and I see what I can apply in my interview preparation. So basically, through this practice, I get to a point that I'm really very relaxed. Actually, during my interviews, speaking with you here right now, I feel more relaxed than if I would be speaking to myself in front of the mirror. I don't know why that happens, but it's like it's easier because I've put in the work.
Right. And that actually is the kind of the perfect segue into the next question I wanted to ask you. As far as the tone of these interviews, um, in terms of is it highly professional and stiff, or have you found everything to be more relaxed and conversational? What has that felt like to you from the moment you sit down and then you get started talking?
Mhm. So in my experience with 3 interviews, right, it's been completely conversational. So of course it's professional. You dress up for the occasion, not the way I am right now, right? Um, with a scrub, but I put on my attire and with the suit and everything. I use these headphones because actually I found out if you saw my previous videos, you could see I had it like a speaker, a microphone. I found out that during practice sessions, my microphone sometimes would just die because my laptop is 2014 and it was my laptop's fault. So I gave it back. I got these. These are noise canceling, so it helps me out listening to you much better and being able to communicate more effectively. So can you very listen? Can you hear me in a crisp manner, or is there any sort of problem?
No, it's absolutely really, really good audio quality. And I love that you shared that story because you learned about that from practicing and recording yourself. And if you hadn't taken the time to do that ahead of time, then your mic would have been going out during the interview,
Of
which,
course.
I mean, even though that's not a reflection on your clinical capabilities, it can still kind of just leave a bad taste in their mouth because it shows that you weren't necessarily prepared.
Hmm.
Um,
Of course. Sorry, I want to make a small disclaimer right there. So for everyone that's seeing right now and that will see in the future, I'm speaking in a conversational manner with Tiffany. I'm speaking to her as if she is my friend because I see her as a person that is actually helping all of us out. That's the way you have to see the program director and the other people that is with the program you're interviewing. So be yourself. Take it smoothly, but if you can see, I'm talking a little too much. Why am I talking a little too much? Because you guys want to know a little more about these questions. But when you're in the interview, you know you have only 15 to 20 minutes to convey your message. So you have to be more direct, more concise, but still try to maintain it conversational and try to avoid the awkward moments. So this is like an example I say, and I've seen you guys also state, it's like dating, or it's like a first date with the program. So you have to be able to show the program that you're not a normal person, that aren't you aren't a freak, that you can maintain a conversation, that you can communicate with your patient, that you can convey messages, that you can apply medical skills to when you're working, because you will be 3 years at least, or 2 years depending on your route of application with that program. So they want to know they you can be under their same roof with them. So you have to, just enjoy it. And based on what you asked me about it being conversational, this is the way I have been able to communicate and interact with most of with the 3 different programs I have interviewed, because it not only depends up to them, most of it depends on you. It's on you. So it's on you if you get there and you are serious, and they have to try to ask you questions, because if not, you are just answering yes or no answers. So if you make it conversational, you will give them the capacity or the ability to feel they're talking with a friend.
Yeah, and that's really important. It's something that I think, and we have like at Match a Resident on our YouTube channel, as you've seen, we have this interview prep series where there's just short videos that go over commonly asked questions and also talk about one of the important aspects being having this conversational tone. And every one of those short videos kind of throws that in at the end to remind everybody how important it is. And as you started saying in the beginning of what you were just saying here, you do have to limit yourself, and there's a connection there, right? So if you're having this really good exchange with someone and it feels really comfortable and it's conversational and you're getting along really well, I think that it is very easy to elaborate, to over elaborate, right? To go kind of off base a little bit, and all of a sudden before you realize it, now you've been talking for 5 minutes straight and without a breath. And so actually a new article that I've just written for Match a Resident that we're going to be sharing soon. One of the headings is cut yourself off. And you have to know when to cut yourself off and to kind of realize, okay, I've gone too far. Let me bring this back. And we're going to share some good strategies for that too. But the easiest one is just to say, I think I've spoken long enough about that. Let's go back to this topic. So once you realize you've done it, you just need to kind of cut it off and come back.
Of
So yeah,
course.
I think really good that you brought that up because I don't know that I would have remembered.
Mhm. So I like talking a lot. So that's something. Some people don't like talking. Some people are mostly introverted. There's the extroverted people. So I want to share, for example, something I saw in one of my interviews. We were talking with the chief residents. So for those of you that haven't interviewed yet, most of your time will be in the lounge or in the waiting room, and you will be speaking mainly with the chief residents or the different residents of your specialty. And so it has to be, that's the most conversational and maybe unprofessional part of your interview, because in many interviews we ended up talking about movies, we ended up talking about what they liked to do in their free time. We talked about pizza and different trivia, and what would you be if you were a household appliance. So things that are very like informal in nature, but there is where you have to show that you aren't a robot. So if you have a 260 or 270 on your step exams, interview day, they also want to see that you have this social capacity, because your patient doesn't care if you're a 265 grade on step 1 or step 2. Your patient wants you to have empathy for them. Your patient wants to feel listened and cared for. That's why I asked one of the program directors, I asked him, what are the three main strengths you are looking for in a resident, in an applicant? And he said, I'm looking for only one. It's caring. Because if you care, you will make all the other adjustments you need in order to do things correctly in the hospital. So going back to what we were talking about, we were talking to the chief residents, and the chief resident was speaking, and another resident would always unmute the microphone and would start talking and interrupting the chief resident along the way. So it was very difficult for us to understand what the chief resident was saying, because this other resident was very extroverted and was talking all the way. So you have to know when you have talked too much, like me right now. So I'm gonna give you the word, so you ask me next question or tell me what you think.
Yeah, I mean, I think our conversation is actually just a really good example of how a conversation can have this type of natural back and forth, and both of us maybe being aware, like, okay, I've said enough on that, and so now I'm just going to transition it back. So hopefully this is something that people watching are getting learning from. Um, and I do want to ask a little bit more about your background. So you said that what we're seeing now is similar. Probably it's a little bit broader when you have your laptop, so we can see the
Okay.
full picture. But yeah, can you tell us why you picked what's behind you, and has it come up during any interviews?
Okay, perfect. Well, before we go into that, someone here, Dr. Z. Musa, said it correctly, what we were talking about. So the exam scores give you the interview. Of course, that is the scores on your application are directly proportional to the number of interviews you'll get, and the interview itself gives you the match. So once you're there in the interview, everyone is in the same level playing field. So there is where you have to make the most out of the interview. You have to, even if you're a 270 person, which is incredible, which if I was a program director, a 270, I wouldn't even interview you. You got the job almost. But you have to show them you have those social skills as well. So going to your
Absolutely.
question, my background right here, actually this wall was plain. I just had this right here, this painting right here, this one, and I didn't have these two things right here. So this right here is my ECFMG certificate. Why do I have it right here? Because it means a lot to me. So I want them to know, even though they have my application and they already know I'm ECFMG certified, it's right there. So I like it. It's sort of, I feel it looks a little more professional. And yeah, I also am working right now on telehealth. So I also like it being there because the patient usually likes seeing some sort of certificate on the wall. And
Sure.
this right here are some of my most significant or most heartwarming pictures I got. So this one is related to my personal statement because I write a unicycle. So my personal statement talks about my unicycle and how I learned to balance the pulling and tugging of life with my unicycle, and how this resembles my journey in medicine. So it's right there if they want to ask. This is just showing off some of my unique sports I do. So this is kettlebell juggling. This is enjoying nature with my wife and two pet dogs. Everyone likes dogs, so I think it's a nice picture. Actually, it has come up, and they have asked me about this picture. And actually, during my interview, they have asked me about my dogs, and I have even asked them if they wanted to see my dogs. They've in 2 interviews already. They said, okay, sure. So I brought my dogs and lifted them up so they could see the dogs. Everyone liked the dogs, so that is definitely going to be a positive, probably not a negative, at least neutral. And this right here is one of my passions, which is teaching. So while I was a resident here in Costa Rica, I would spend hours of the day teaching the students, and that's one of the passions I have, and I believe it. Yeah, it's positive. So that's my setup. I know some people recommend plain white or or something that doesn't distract. But in my case, if you get distracted by my pictures, I have no problem if you ask me about them. I actually am waiting for people to ask me about these things because those are part of me, of what you'll get if you actually, yeah, hire me as a resident.
Yeah, I think that's really awesome. I love how strategic you were about each of the pictures that you put in the frame so that if you're asked about any one of them, there's kind of an underlying story that you can tell or something you can share that connects back with, like you said, your personal statement or what you do in your free time. I agree about the dogs. I think that everybody does like dogs. And I think that's really insightful too that you said that you've actually brought your dogs on screen during the interview, and that just speaks to that casual, more conversational type of environment where
Mhm.
you're definitely not talking about medicine and you've got the furry creature on screen. So that sounds really cool. I'm glad you gave us that detail. Um,
Of course. So part of that of being like you have to own your story. So any of you that have something inspirational in your life or in your personal statement, if you guys have something you wrote about in your personal statement, for example, those if you play the violin, you can have a picture of you playing the violin right uh, and yeah, right there. Or you could also have your violin if you can put it in the frame, um, so people can see it because those are things that are important. Why is this important? Because they want to see that you're a good doctor and that you also have something out of medicine that makes you passionate, because that talks a lot about you. Because if you only have medicine as the sole purpose, that is usually a sign that you might burn out way more easier than someone who has different passions and that can combine different things into their life. So I believe that's definitely a positive, right? So here I see Dr. Musa was going to ask this. He says the ECFMG certificate is an accomplishment and it's very smart to have it there for them to see. In a non-virtual setting, the programs in many occasions ask you for it. So going back to what we just spoke about, it's something that isn't going to be seen negative. So you have to be able to, for those of you that might be way too narcissistic, you have to be able to bring it down a notch or two notches, right? So there's a fine line between being proud of yourself, proud of your accomplishments, and being a narcissist. So all extremes are bad. So I have this right here, but I won't start asking them, hey, can I talk about my pictures? And do you see this right here? No one's asking. If they're not asking, so just let them be, and that's it. If they ask, you can share with them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And for the picture that you have, like the painting that's up above everything else, is there any reasoning behind that, or is it just kind of to add a little bit of color and visual interest?
Okay, so this picture right here, it's a texturized picture. From it's actually from Austria, Vienna, and it's just nice. It was right there in my house because I'm here in my house right now. It's nice. Some people have said it better take it off, and others have said you can leave it there. But I just decided I would leave it there. I like it. I think it's okay. I believe that being there or taking it away, it would be the same thing. What they're interested is knowing that I am fit for the program and not that my this drawing is way too much or way too little. So yeah, I am the one that's going to show them I'm fit for the program, and this won't make much of a difference.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I think in cases where a background is messy, where there's, just random things thrown about all over the place or overwhelmingly busy, especially if there's some different types of lighting going on or, a monitor, a TV in the background that's moving,
Mm-hmm.
those things can hurt you. But I think, having color on the wall and having some visually engaging items, I think that that's a matter of preference. Like you said, it's not going to make or break your interview. It might lead to some interesting conversation, or like you said, it might not be acknowledged, which is also fine.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you've been very smart in the way that you've set your background up and the strategy behind certain things. And yeah, I think that that's really good advice for everybody.
Yeah, so I'm making the best out of every different step of the way. So I already did my step exams. Right now, my focus is the interviews. Right now, my focus is in step 3 because right after a couple more interviews, I'll start focusing on step 3, hopefully before becoming a resident in the US. And I do believe I will match for this next year. I have no trouble saying I will match for this match season. So if anyone tells me, but what if you don't match? Okay, who cares? I had the mentality to match. And if that happens, I'll work through it for next year. But what I want to get to is that you guys have to make the best out of every step. So this step right here is interview prep. So right now, no one is going to ask you, that the patient is hypotensive and with fever, what's your next step? No, sir, that's not the question they'll ask you. They'll ask you, tell us about yourself. What are your strengths, your weaknesses, and probably some curveballs. You have to prepare for that right now. So, so I'm preparing with you guys, Match a Resident. I've been preparing ever since I found your page. And actually, if it weren't for Match a Resident, I probably would have applied, but I wouldn't have done things in such a smart manner because you guys are able to synthesize and to make everything, all of the information in a compressible, manageable manner. And I am very thankful for all of you doing this. And tell me a little about your background because I didn't ask you about it.
About my background?
Yeah,
You mean my physical, literal background or my background?
both. Now that
Both.
you
Oh
mentioned.
gosh. Sure, I will. I'll just spend a very brief amount of time. So I'm actually sitting in front of my piano here. I am terrible, but I'm self-taught, so I'm teaching myself to play the piano. So yeah, I actually did choose to have intentionally a little pop of color over here, and just a little, decoration over here. So that's my kind of, I guess, way of having a little bit of personality rather than just having the blank wall, because sometimes I feel like that it just isn't as inviting to have just a plain background. But my background with Match a Resident is that I actually have been with Match a Resident for a really long time, with their company Residency Statement. And what we do at Residency Statement is draft and edit personal statements for every specialty in residency. So I got my starting about 7 years ago with them. And ever since, I've just kind of become immersed into the world of residency and the match. And, what's really interesting is most applicants go through the process once, sometimes twice. And so, for some people more than twice even, but for many people, it's a one-time experience. And, it's taken me, years to learn everything that I know about the match and how it works, and to become kind of an expert on helping people, like you said, kind of look at it comprehensively and put all the pieces together from start all the way up to the rank order list when it's time to match. It's really difficult as just an applicant going through it one time, the first time. There's an impossible amount of information to try to do it on your own. So, that's where I'm at with Match a Resident. I've just kind of been gathering information and immersed in it for a while, and really love talking with, applicants like you, and even PGY1s, PGY2s, anyone who I have the chance with to hear about their experience, because everybody's experience is it's so different. You mentioned Dr. Edwin's video, and there's another video on our IGTV channel of Dr. Paul, and he talks about how he got his interview in January, and it was for anesthesiology, and that January interview ended up being the one. That's where he matched. So it's just really cool to get to meet everybody and hear the different stories, and of course that builds my own, wealth of knowledge for helping people.
Of course. So that's it. You've been practicing helping others, but you've also been practicing to improve your skills to aid us through this. And you mentioned helping us with the personal statements. Are we talking about residencyexperts.com? Is this part of or not?
So we have three. There's Match a Resident, there's Residency Experts, which does help with the CVs and editing personal statements and letters of recommendation and all of those documents. And then we also have Residency Statement, which is a little bit more of an intensive experience for editing and writing statements, where you really have a lot of ongoing communication back and forth with your editor or your writer. So it's with Residency Experts, it's more of a one time through, a very holistic revision and polish, and then your documents returned. So it really depends on the level of interaction that you want to have, and where your draft, if you have a draft, where it's starting from. If you know it's going to need a lot of work, you're better, perhaps to think of Residency Statement. But yeah, we do. And of course, as you know, we also have our interview prep service, which is another part of our company. So we really do look at everything from program research right at the front end all the way through interviewing. And then we have our free tool, Rank Assist within Match a Resident, that is available to anybody. You just have to sign up and get a free account. And then you can use the interview manager and Rank Assist, which really walks you through reflecting on your interviews. Because even if you have just 3 interviews all season, it's going to be hard to decide maybe how to rank them. And with this particular tool, it captures your feelings and your reflections right away. So it's a really, really nice tool to use.
Yeah, of course. So I'm using the Rank Assist and the interview manager actually. So I don't want to lose any interviewing opportunity because we know that IMGs will get less interviews, and it would be incredibly painful if you have an interview and you find out it was yesterday and you you didn't show up. So I'm using the interview manager. I'm also using a Google Calendar. So I'm cross-checking things from both, and I'm also using the rank assist. So actually, the way I will be ranking programs will be mainly through the rank assist. Right after I finish the interview, the first thing I do is I get on Match a Resident. I write down the feedback, and once I write down the feedback is for others to also to be able to read what my experience was, because others have already done this in the past, and it's always good for you to go into the interview knowing what others felt of the experience. So that's the first thing I do. I write down the experience, how it went and everything, feedback. And second thing I do is I score the program, and I already have my rankings. So in 2 months from now, when I check them, probably I'll have something that is more a metric that is objective and not my subjective feeling that might be, of course, yeah, biased, very biased, because our
Right.
brain will probably rank them differently as time goes on, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's something people maybe don't think about, is that after an hour's gone by, or a day or a week or a month, your perception of how that interview went and how you felt afterward, it's not going to be as accurate as that immediate capturing of your feelings. So I mean, obviously, I think Rank Assist is a really, really great tool, and it's free. So why wouldn't you use it? But if you're not using it, nonetheless, you should be recording your reflections and your feelings about that interview experience in some way. It's
Mhm.
absolutely a very bad idea to kind of push it off and wait or feel, I'll remember that. That was just so great. I'll remember it. But then the interview experiences can blend together if you have several interviews. So, yeah, really important. I
Yeah.
do have one final question that I want to ask you. So now that you've had these 3 interviews and it sounds like they've gone really well for you, and you felt very prepared, are you planning on doing anything differently or additional to get ready for the next interviews?
Okay, so right before going into that, um, guys, if you have any questions, let us know. And I see one question right there. We'll answer it in a second. So, uh, day one, my first interview, I thought it wouldn't go that well, but actually, I could, yeah, I thought about it objectively. Of course, you always have this subjective feeling, which is difficult for you to be able to know how you did, but I believe I did very well. Um, I wouldn't change much, but I'll keep on doing the same I've been doing, which is practice. So I'll keep on practicing. So one of the reasons I'm here with you today is because I'm getting something out of this conversation. I live in Costa Rica. I speak in Spanish the whole day. One of my weaknesses is my English fluency. I've been working on it. I'm working on it right now. So tomorrow I have an interview. So I actually, this is one of the practice sessions I have for me to be able to be fluent tomorrow. And yeah, I'll keep doing the same thing. Later on today, I'll go on Match a Resident. I'll practice with the random questions. So I'll see what pops up. I've already answered many questions, but that's what will get me to or is maintaining me with that level of confidence, right? So, so yeah, I'll keep doing the same thing. I'm very happy with very glad with my approach. I already know the answers to the main questions they will give me. I don't have to start thinking. I don't have to answer one strength for one program and another strength for another program. I have three strengths which are very, very clear. Even I have worked through them in each interview. So I said things, and the program directors have told me that's strong. That's a positive for a program. So based on that, so I am working and confectioning like what's the best strengths I can say, being myself, being genuine, not selling them someone who isn't, but just knowing and understanding what are the things that the programs look for. And I wanted to answer this question from Julio Cesar Tulli. If so, he said, is it okay to accept a pre-match hospital offer if you only have few residency interviews? So this is a question it's very important. So first of all, congratulations. That's number one. This means a lot. It means they want to take you in before they finish interviewing everybody. It means you have such strengths that they acknowledge, and they want you to be there before you go on to accept a different program. That is definitely positive. That should give you, yeah, a palm right and on the back. And the answer to that is it depends. So it depends on how many are a few interviews for you, because there are people that are so anxious that 15 interviews are a small number for them. That is actually a very large number. If you are talking about 3 interviews and this one is offering you a chance, if I were you, it would be a very tough decision. And sometimes we don't get second opportunities. So first of all, you have to decide if you can see yourself in the program in the future, and if you will feel accomplished being in that program. If the answer is yes, if you have 3 interviews or less than 5 interviews, if I were you, I could accept it. I probably would accept it. But if it's a place that you aren't that sure of, and you're like, I don't think I'll enjoy that place, and it's good, but, and you have too many buts, keep working through it. You have to know that one of the possibilities is that you don't match, but sometimes not matching is better than matching in a place that you will regret it your whole lifetime after that. So that's something you have to take into account. I think let's see if there's another question. Let me know, Tiffany, if you have a question.
Sure, I'm scrolling too, just to see.
Dr. Musa says you only showing part of it, which isn't distracting. It may lead to questions. Okay, maybe I guess Dr. Musa is talking about this painting right here. If it leads to questions, I have a short answer for it. And actually, I haven't been to Austria, Vienna. I liked it. It's a texturized painting. That's why I have it there. I like the colors of nature, so you can see them right there. But I don't have much more to answer. I can't say like I painted it, or I can't say anything of that, right? But yeah, it's there, and I've thought it for a while if I take it off or not, but it's been no problem till now. So probably it's staying. I do understand that if I had something else right here, it would be overkill probably, and way too much, and that wouldn't look good. So yeah, in my subjective feeling, I think it's getting to the limit, but it's okay.
Yeah, I think so too. There's a question here that says, what questions should we ask to program directors and faculty?
Okay, so that's one of the toughest things, I think, in my case, that's one of the toughest things to prepare of. So if you ask me about my strengths, weaknesses, all those things, I can answer that without a problem right now since I've practiced. But being able to ask them in questions that, because you can't ask anything. You can't ask the program director. Maybe you can't ask him, tell me, do residents commute to work, or how do they get to the hospital? That's a question you have to ask the residents and not the program director. So you have to know who you are asking, because that will determine how you will be seen. So your IQ will be actually one of the ways they will see your IQ is, what is this person asking me? So why is this person, for example, in one of my interviews, they showed us a video, an introductional video, and one of the interviewees asked the program director if they could send her the link so she could review it at home. And that's a video I saw the day before. It was, when you looked for the program, it was the first video that pops up. So I was thinking that might not look very good, because it's out there in the public, and you're just showing them that you haven't researched the program. Yeah. So basic things. If you're going to interview into a program, first thing you could do is go into YouTube and see what appears for the program. Do a web search, see where the program directors went to study. Did they study here in the program? Did they leave? Did they come back? Those are things you could eventually talk about. So know what you ask about. You can ask a lot of things, but there are just a certain amount of questions you shouldn't ask, which are those that go along the obvious, or that are outdated in the sense that you could search the answer on your own. So don't ask about what's the salary, because you haven't even been hired yet, and you have that in the brochure they're sending you a couple days before the interview. So those are things. For example, one question that will always work could be to the program director. It could be, can you tell me what is the board's pass rate for your residents? So that's a question that if you don't find it in any other place, that's a great question. Or you could also ask, where do your residents go after they graduate in your program? So yeah. And actually, if it's conversational, I've asked the program director, tell me about your hobbies. I've asked them questions that they would ask me, and it depends on how you're reading the situation. If it's conversational and everything, you can ask them things that aren't that strictly academically oriented after you already did the academic questions.
Yeah, I think I agree with you too. It's about reading the room, and if the conversation feels comfortable, then I think that's a pretty smart strategy. Thank you you gave, I think, 3 really good yeses as far as like, yes, you could ask these questions. So thank you for that.
Welcome. You're all welcome.
And I'm looking here. I see another one. It says, where do you get your recommendation letters from? So okay. A little bit off topic. Do you want to answer, or I can answer?
No problem. I can answer, and then you can give us your take. So sure. If you want to go first.
Yeah, so I guess my answer is just general, right? And maybe he's asking about your specifics, but you want to get, ideally, your letters of recommendation from, number one, hands-on experiences, as opposed to like observerships, because those are typically not hands-on. So any letter of recommendation that's coming from an experience you had where you actually worked directly with the patients is going to be stronger than one where you did not. And then the strongest type of letter of recommendation is going to be from a US clinical experience within the specialty that you're applying for. So being in the US is important, being specialty specific is important, and being hands-on is important. Those are kind of the 3 boxes you want to check.
Great. So specifically my answer to this question, I think Ashkan Tien asked it. So in my case, I did something I already practiced medicine here in Costa Rica. I already have a residency experience in the area of cardiology here in my home country. So someone said they loved my confidence. So that's something you can work on, or that's something you can actually just believe in yourself. So in my case, it would be actually weird if I cannot, if I'm not confident in myself, if I have already lived through a residency. So my recommendation for you guys that might not have a residency experience and that you are participating in the same interview chat with someone who has had a residency experience is own your story. So if you see me there in the chat and I'm talking, if you feel the urge, because many times we feel the urge, I want to unmute my microphone and I have something to say. Try doing it. Don't just say I don't want to speak because this guy has more experience than me. No, you have to take those chances, and that's the only way you guys will grow, and you have to show your potential. So going into that question of the letters of recommendation, the answer is meet the people. So you guys have to, I'm from Costa Rica, I talked to someone here in Costa Rica, like 10 people from Costa Rica, and they had someone they knew in the States. And they talked to that person in the States, and that person didn't know me, but their friend was my friend. So that person said, okay, well, your friend has a cardiology background, but my option is to give him an observership during this COVID pandemic in the area of gastroenterology. So my friend told me, and I was like, I'm there. I'm right there. So I'm applying for internal medicine. If you want to throw me into rheumatology, neurology, whatever is part of internal medicine, I'm right there. So what I did is I talked to this person, and he told me, well, if you wish, we could wait 1 month and we could get you a spot in cardiology. I said, when is the spot for gastroenterology opening? 4 days. Okay, I'm there in 4 days. That's what I did. And I was there for a month. Then they extended my rotation another month in ID. And then I was able even to go to Mayo Clinic for a week and sort of a week with a doctor I met here in Costa Rica, which he gave me the opportunity of visiting for a week. So I got letters of recommendation from all these month rotations except from Mayo Clinic. But guess what? I didn't hesitate to ask for the letter of recommendation after 1 week of rotation. What was the worst thing that could happen? He could say no, and yeah, he said no because it was a, but there was no problem with that. So that's how I got my letters of recommendation. I went all in. I presented a morning report. I presented another academic lecture, and I actually have them on my YouTube channel if you guys want to see them. They're right there. So that's what you have to do. You have to go participate and show them what you're made of.
Awesome. I think that's inspiring. I love how you just kind of took the opportunity, ran with it, and it turned into more than one opportunity. So that's perfect advice for everybody who's thinking about how to get the experience. And like you said, you did an observership because that's what was available. And if that's the case, that is fine. It is better to do an observership and have a letter of recommendation from that experience than to say, well, no, it has to be clinical or hands-on. It's, definitely get the letter of recommendation when you can, especially when it's within your field. So I think that's great too.
And actually, Tiffany, for those of you that cannot get your hands on an observership, because even if you make the effort, I know it's very hard or tough to get these rotations right now. But if you don't get the rotation, remember, a letter of recommendation, this is the ranking order. Letter of recommendation from someone in the US is better than letter of recommendation from someone in your home country. But letter of recommendation from someone in your home country is better than none whatsoever. So try to get those letters, but if you cannot get them from the States, be sure to get 3 or 4 letters from your country and try to waive the rights to see them, because if you do not waive the rights, they are sort of a red flag, because you might have modified something, or you already know what they said. So hopefully you waived, right?
Yeah, we definitely recommend waiving your right to see the letter of recommendation. That's a good point to add in. I do see another question here that says, for students applying without the ECFMG certificate,
Hmm.
um, being certified in February, is is it too late to even be considered for this?
Okay.
So getting certified in February, that's a little bit later on in the game, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit later on in the game, but you have to take into account that your ranking is after February. I believe it's around March. I believe it's on March
March
that
2nd.
yeah. So the only thing here is the only the only chance missed is the one the only opportunity missed is the one not taken. So you guys, if you're gonna get the certificate in February, don't hesitate to update your programs, the ones you, yeah, or the programs of your interest. Hey, I have my ECFMG certificate. If you want to review my application. So yeah, a short email, less than 200 words, making them know that you have another strength, new strength that they might take into account.
Yeah. All right, let's see if there's any more questions.
Do you have any advice on how to rank? Someone said rank where you want to go, not where you think they will also rank you. Can you please touch on this? Okay, so I'll give you my take and then give me yours, Tiffany.
Sure.
So in my case, for example, um, I interviewed till for now I've interviewed in three programs. One of the programs I interviewed is actually could be a dream program. It's sort of an Ivy League program. Another of the programs isn't an Ivy League program, but has a lot of strengths. So it is based on what you want. So rank the programs. Of course, you have to take into account probabilities, right? Because if you're ranking in an Ivy League program where the step one score cutoff is 235 and your score is 230 and you did so on the interview and you're not sure if they're ranking you, I would think it twice for ranking them number one because uh, it's okay. It's okay. You can dream about it. You can rank them number one, but you might be lower in your chances on another program that their cutoff is 220 and you excelled in the interview and you also like the program. So be sure that it's a place that you actually feel fond of and don't go only by the name of the place in the States. I've seen there are a whole lot of programs with very weird names that once you go search them up in the internet, they look incredible. They look much better than any program you can envision in your home country. So take those things into account because sometimes there's a saying in Spanish that says más vale pájaro en mano que cien volando, which means it's better to have a pigeon in your hand than 100 flying. So be sure to rank programs on what you want, but just be sure that it's a place you won't regret if you get accepted into. So in my case, I'm having a tough time between a place that is Ivy League. I did very well in both interviews, so I'm having a hard time between Ivy League and not Ivy League, but the place is incredible. It's close from home, and even you have golden weekends almost every weekend. And these guys envision their program in a very smart way that if you finish your tasks early, you could actually go home and keep on working through your cell phone. So you have to take all these things into account. Do you have a family? What are your interests? Do you want to be able to appreciate the place you are actually working in, or do you want to be in the hospital learning what the whole day? Because in my case, I already lived through a residency, so I don't have any problem. I'm not seeing that many patients because I'll go in there already knowing how to perform echocardiograms, central venous lines, endotracheal intubation. so I don't need that many patients. For example, now I want to work more on my craft and make the best out of each patient. But some of you need all these patients, so take all those things into account.
Yeah, I think I just want to second everything you've said. The most important thing is thinking about what you want for your residency because you are going to be there for several years. So you want to love the place that you're at. So it can be sometimes, tempting to want to rank a program just because they are, Ivy League, or there's something else that's appealing about that program. But if you've got another program that already feels like home and the interview just, was more than you ever expected, it's really important to rank where you want to go. So your rank order list should be ordered in your preferred order. Your genuine thoughts on where you want to be. The algorithm favors you as the applicant. So there's no harm in ranking, a program that you maybe think is a little bit out of reach. There's no harm in ranking them high up on your list. But don't do it just because of the name of the program. Do it because that's where you desperately want to be. So
Yeah.
yeah, I second everything that you said.
So just to add to that you just said, okay, for example, you have your dream program and you got the opportunity, but during the interview, you never unmuted your microphone. Not 1 second, you only unmuted it during the actual interview with the program director, and you weren't able to convey your message, and the program director was looking down all the while and never kind of smiled. And so if that happens, maybe placing this program in your number one position would be a little stretch of imagination. That is where you have to use the rank assist, so you objectively state, okay, yes to this, no to this, okay, program director 1 to 5, this, blah, blah, blah. And that's the way you'll objectively have your list. Then use your subjective mind and your dream and all your dreams and say, okay, is it worth it to risk it a little, put in this one number one, and do that based on your heart feeling. Just be sure you
Right.
won't regret your decision.
Definitely. And we have another question here that asking about the pass fail. So please tell us about the pass fail score for step one. Is that going to affect our chances as an IMG?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is my answer for this question. Pass fail, everyone, there's speculation. So some people says it's better, some people says it's worse. So there's only one way to know. The only way to know is see what will happen once this is pass fail. So if you aren't a good test taker and you have difficulties with step one material, or it's been a long gap since you've studied biochemistry and all this, probably pass fail will be better for you as an applicant, because that's your weak spot. But if you're good at test taking, so it would be actually a negative, because on that step one you could have got a 260 and that would look better on your application. So it depends. But if this is your dream, you probably won't start making that much of mathematics, because you will be driven to make your best, and it probably won't delay your application process. But if you guys have to work, if you're a single mother and all that, of course you have to take it into account, because, for example, in my case, I had to study. I did step one like 3 years after graduation from medical school. I had to study approximately 9 months, basically. So I was studying the whole day for 8 to 9 months. Just had a dysfunctional relationship, which took me some time, but I had to study almost the whole day. So yeah, so it's more speculation than any other thing. I don't know if you have, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, this upcoming next season, so 22-23, where we're going to have applicants who are applying with a pass fail and applicants who are applying with a numerical score. It's going to be a mixed batch. It's hard to say how that's going to affect anyone. We like to think that probably if you're applying with a pass, because of course you're not going to apply with a fail. So if you're applying with a pass, that's not going to hurt you. There's no reason that that should hurt your chances. If you are applying with a score and you have a high score, then of course probably programs are going to look at that score, see that it's high, and just like they have for so long, they like high scores. So it's going to help you if you have the high score. But because so many applicants are going to be applying with the pass fail or the pass, then that is completely fine. It should not hurt your chances any any at all. Um, it's likely programs are going to look at other areas of your application a little bit. They'll place more weight, on your step two score, on your letters of recommendation, your clinical experiences, even your MSPE. Everything, all the weight from step one is just going to shift over into other measurable aspects of your application. So it's really, I think, absolutely nothing to be worried about. So many people are really concerned about if this shift is going to hurt their chances or make it more difficult. And probably not. There's no reason to think that it will. It's just going to be a shift in the way that applications are looked at, but not in a negative way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. So one of the reasons this is going to be pass fail, what ECFMG states, or yeah, whoever is making these tests, is that it's to reduce the burden on the student based on the 3-digit scoring for the step one. But it's somewhat counterintuitive, and it can backfire, because if you're going to have it pass fail, so what happens to step two? So other people are talking that step two will be even more important, because programs usually want to see something objective, and many programs will be like, okay, pass fail, okay, you passed, but how did you do on step two? So let's focus on step two. There's only one way to find out. That will be in the future, but the best recommendation we could give you guys is make the best out of both opportunities, because step two will be based, the people that do well on step one will usually go on to do 10 to 15 points better on step two. So there's no reason for you to be half-assed, right, in step one, because yeah, that's what will take you to the next level. And there's another question here. Can I answer it?
Yeah.
Okay. So Wal Abib asks, what do you feel about programs that ask about that ask you clinical questions? So actually, I haven't had that experience yet. What I've read, what I've heard, and everything is that this is very infrequent. And actually, Mature Resident speaks about this, and they also state what are the most common questions you guys will have. And the last part on that will be clinical-oriented questions. So most programs, what I think about it is, my honest opinion, or what I actually think about it is, you want to know what I think about a clinical case, here you have my step one and step two score. But I won't answer that, of course. So if they ask me that, you'll have to be ready to answer it. You shouldn't say nothing along the line as to, I thought you were going to ask me more different questions or something like that. If you say that, you're not getting ranked. That simple as that. Is it a little less, is it not tactful for the program to ask you clinical questions? Yeah, it might be. It probably isn't the best approach to use those 15 to 20 minutes, but it's their program. And if you want to go to their program, you have to be ready to answer their questions. And if they ask you a clinically oriented question, be ready to loosen up, think it through. If you need 15 seconds to think about it, better do that and tell them, can you give me a second to think, to brainstorm, or whatever you need, and then answer it. If you don't know, be honest. So, for example, if they ask me something, if they ask me, hey, Dr. Clinton, what do you think of something Kumab in the treatment of psoriatic arthritis? I'll be like, that's interesting. I've read about it. I've never, here in Costa Rica, we don't have these monoclonal antibodies for this illness, but I promise that if I'm in your program in less than 24 hours, I'll have you an answer. If you wish, I can present on this tomorrow or something like that. So you have to show them that if you don't know, you don't know, but you're willing to do what it takes in order to know what you're going to answer in the benefit of the patient.
Yeah, that's really perfect advice. And something that everybody should be prepared for is not knowing the answer to a question and being able to gracefully not know the answer. And I think your strategy is a really strong one, as well as being comfortable saying, let me take a few moments to think about that, because it can feel really awkward to have that silence, especially virtually. It's even more awkward virtually, I think, than when you're in person. So you should just know, though, that it is okay to ask for a few moments to think, take that time and gather yourself, whatever you need to do so that you can respond. One thing that your response made me think of that I wanted to mention to everybody is that if you have a customized list with Match a Resident, or if you don't, you can still get one. They're still available, even though most of the applying has happened. Within the details for each program, we have a section called interview feedback. And this is from applicants this year, applicants in previous years. They're giving information about what the interviews were like. And I review these as they come in every day. And I'm seeing a lot of people, they mention, no clinical questions were asked, or they did ask me about a clinical scenario. So you can get some insight into what an interview with a specific program is going to be like in your customized list, but just by looking at the interview feedback section. And you can't really find that anywhere else. I mean, there's some social media forums where you might find here and there a report of what an interview was like, but this is really, there's a lot of data available to you.
Yes, so I'm working two jobs right now. I'm working in the afternoons. I have two different jobs. I'm working almost Sunday to Sunday. This last 3 weeks has been basically Sunday to Sunday. And I have no time to go researching all these different social platforms and people just complaining and all those things.
Yes.
I'm interested in seeing how did the interview go, what feedback do you have, and that's it. There is one place to read that. My place is Match a Resident. There is where I go see it. I have no time to go on rants on social media and all that, right? So if you guys are short of time and you want some peace of mind, know where to direct your efforts, and this is the place, Match a Resident for sure. And something I'm reading here, Dr. Musa, is do we still have time to answer questions, or are we running out of time?
Let's answer a couple more, especially if they've come in there toward the end. I'm going to scroll back to the beginning, but yeah, if you've got one, go ahead.
Okay, so Dr. Z Musa says common hobbies with an influential person in the program can lead to you getting accepted. I remember a candidate who got accepted because he flies airplanes as a hobby. The program director also did. So that's it. So I have this right here. So program directors usually teach. Here I am teaching. Program directors or people, as we go into the 21st century, we usually start appreciating more the outdoors. Here I'm rocking. In the States, there is snow. Here's some snow. There's no snow in Costa Rica, so this probably was from somewhere outside Costa Rica. And here's my personal statement in a picture. So if they have any of these interests, they'll probably let you know. In my interviews, this has come up at least in more than half, like 2 of the 3 interviews, and it started like us talking on exercise. And actually, one of the program directors asked me, "So tell me about what was the last book you read?" Which I have it right here. I'm using it. I'm gonna show you. So it's this one. It's The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, which is a great book. And this person told me, this associate program director told me, the program director makes the interns read that book in their first year. So I let him know that I was going to bring this up to the program director as well. He laughed. We laughed. So I was myself genuine. I used my sense of humor, and when I talked to the program director, I brought it up. I told this person that I like this book, and that his or her associate director told me that yeah that he knew that about the program director, and it actually started us like a 5 minute talk about it, and it definitely was something positive. So of course, Dr. Musa, I do believe that having common hobbies will increase your chances because we already have a common hobby, which is medicine. It should be a hobby for all of us. So they're looking for other hobbies you guys have, because if all of us can say we like medicine, but not all of us can say we like throwing kettlebells in the air and running below 15 degrees Celsius. Maybe someone out there in the program is crazy enough as I am and does triathlons and other things, and they'll be like, I like this guy. This dude is crazy like me, for example. And do you have any? Do you see any other questions, Tiffany?
Um, I see a couple, but they're questions that we've already spoken to. And so yeah, I think that's going to wrap things up for us today. If you do have a question that you feel we didn't answer, any of you guys who tuned in, you can always just send us a DM through Instagram, and I will get that and answer it. Otherwise, you can find Dr. Charles' IG handle in the promo post for this, and you can just search him up because his IG handle is Dr. Charles Clinton, so it's easy to find him. If you have questions for him, I know that he's happy to talk with you guys too. And I hope this has been helpful. We really are trying to talk with as many applicants this season as we can. And you are, having gone through these interviews and having the background that you do, I think that you offered like just a wealth of advice to everybody. So I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to say a closing statement. In the words of E.T., the hip hop preacher, when you want to succeed as much as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful. So just remember that and go through this, and you can do it. You got it. And thank you very much. And this is the hardest part for the interviews. For me, is just saying bye and going on to the other room. Yeah, it's there. That's the place or the moment where the sort of the awkward moment happens, because you're like, okay, I'm trying to click it and I haven't been able to click it.
Right.
So
You don't want to break eye contact, but you want to hit the X. So yeah, that
that's
is
it.
that is
That's
the
it.
awkward moment. Well, for
So
everybody who tuned in late, this will be on IGTV and on our YouTube channel, so you can catch up on the beginning part of the interview if you missed it. And here at Match a Resident, we are thinking about you guys. We are rooting for everybody, and we're here to help and answer questions and do anything that we can to help your journey be successful. So thank you, Dr. Charles, and we will talk again soon.
thank you.
You're
Bye,
welcome.
everyone.
Bye.
Good luck.
Bye, everybody.